It was late October, the kind of cold that stings when you breathe in too deep. I was 17, a senior in high school, pulling weekend shifts at this tiny gas station off Route 42. The kind of place that always smells like burnt coffee and diesel, and where time feels slower after dark. Halloween was just a few days away, and business had been dead all night. Mr. Dalton, the owner, had already gone home to his family, so I was running the place solo till midnight. Normally, I didn't mind it, quiet roads, easy money, no drama. But that night felt off. The wind was stronger, the air heavier, and even the hum of the cooler sounded louder than usual. Around 10 o'clock, an old blue pickup rolled in, paint all faded, headlights dim. A tall guy stepped out, wearing a beat-up work jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. He walked real slow, like he wasn't in any hurry. When he came inside, the first thing I noticed were his eyes, pale gray, almost colorless. He didn't look around. Didn't grab a drink or anything. Just walked straight up to the counter and said, "Pump 2." His voice was low and calm, but something about it made my stomach twist. He handed me a 20, and when our hands brushed, his skin felt cold, not from the weather, but deeper than that. Like something that hadn't been warm in a long time. I gave him his change. He didn't leave. Just stood there, staring. "You from around here?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, kinda cautious. "Born and raised." He nodded real slow. Still staring. "Patrick McCabe, right?" That froze me. I wasn't wearing a name tag. Yeah," I said. "How'd you know that?" He gave this tiny smile, polite, almost, but his eyes didn't move. "Just a lucky guess." Then he turned, walked out, and drove off. The truck made this rough, uneven sound as it pulled away, and then the taillights disappeared into the dark. I told myself it was nothing, just some weird dude. But the way he said my name, it didn't sit right. The next night started the same. Quiet roads, bad coffee, and that humming fluorescent light that makes your brain buzz. But I couldn't stop thinking about that guy, his eyes, his voice, that fake little smile. Around 9:30, I was restocking the cooler in the back. When I came out front, I froze. There was a note sitting on the counter. Just a single folded piece of paper. I hadn't heard the bell. No one had come in. I picked it up. The handwriting was rough, almost shaky. 3 words, "See you soon." That's it. No name. No signature. I thought it had to be a prank, maybe one of my buddies messing with me. But when I checked the security camera, my stomach dropped. The footage showed him. Same cap. Same jacket. He walked in at 9:27, stood there for 5 seconds, dropped the note, and left. Never once looked at the camera. I called Mr. Dalton and told him. He said to lock up after 10 and that he'd check the footage in the morning. But the whole rest of that shift, every sound made me jump. Every time headlights passed outside, I looked up too fast. At 11:40, I went out to toss the trash, and that's when I saw it, a blue pickup parked way back under the far light. Same dented front bumper. Same faded paint. But this time, it wasn't running. Headlights were off. Driver's door cracked open. I stood there, gripping the garbage bag. The cold air hurt my throat. On the windshield, pinned under the wiper, was a photo. When I got close enough to see it, my stomach turned. It was a picture of me. Taken from inside the gas station. I called the cops right then. They showed up around midnight, 2 officers, nice enough but not really taking it seriously. One of them asked, "You got any enemies, kid?" I laughed, kinda shaky, and said, "I work at a gas station. I sell coffee and smokes. I don't exactly have enemies." They took the note and the photo, said they'd keep an eye out. After they left, the silence hit different. Heavier. Every creak of the ice machine made me flinch. When my shift finally ended, I drove home with both hands locked on the wheel, eyes glued to the rearview mirror. No headlights followed me. But I didn't feel safe. Next morning, Mr. Dalton called. He'd watched the footage with the cops again, and they noticed something I'd missed. At 9:26, 1 minute before the guy walked in, the outside camera caught a shadow moving past, fast, tall, like someone running. Then the man enters, leaves the note, and walks back out. But the real kicker. The truck didn't leave. It sat there in the parking lot for 4 hours after I closed up. No lights. No engine. Just someone sitting inside. They checked the lot the next morning, but the truck was gone. That night, I begged to leave work early. Drove straight home, locked every window, kept the lights off. At around 1 a.m., I woke up to the sound of gravel crunching outside my window. My stomach dropped. I peeked through the blinds, and there it was. That same blue truck, halfway down my driveway. And him. Standing there. He was just at the edge of the headlights, looking right up at my window. For a second, I couldn't move. Couldn't even breathe. Then he lifted his hand, slow, and gave me a small wave. A second later, the headlights flicked on, and he drove off. The police searched again the next day. Nothing. The plates were stolen. A week later, I quit that job and moved 2 towns over. I never saw him again. But some nights, I swear I hear that same truck idling outside. When I peek through the blinds, there's nothing there. Still, I keep them closed. Because if he ever comes back, I don't want him to know I'm still here. You ever have one of those nights where the air just feels off? That's how it started. Early November, right after Halloween. I just moved into this tiny 1-bedroom apartment out near the woods, quiet, cheap, and just far enough from town that the streetlights barely reached my window. Perfect, I thought. Peace and quiet. For the first few nights, it actually was. Just me, some cheap takeout, late-night movies, the glow of the TV bouncing off the walls. Nothing weird. Until Thursday. It was around 1:30 a.m. when I first heard it. Tap. 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 Came right from the window beside my bed. At first I'm thinking, yeah, it's gotta be a branch. The wind was nasty that night, trees brushing the siding and all that. So, I ignore it. But a few seconds later, again. Tap. 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 Slower. More deliberate. I mute the TV, heart already thumping, and lean toward the blinds. Nothing but darkness outside. Another tap, louder. I whisper to myself, it's just the wind, man. Chill out. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. It had a rhythm. 3 taps. A pause. 3 again. Like someone trying to get my attention. So I grab my phone, turn on the flashlight, pull open the blinds, and see, nothing. Just my own dumb reflection staring back. I let out this shaky laugh, feeling like an idiot. But when I looked down at the bottom of the window, my stomach just dropped. Smudges. Pale finger-shaped smudges, and right in the middle, a full handprint. I live on the 2nd floor. There's no balcony. No ledge. No ladder. How the hell would someone even reach that window? Needless to say, I slept with the lights on that night. Next night, I tried to brush it off. Told myself I overreacted. Lights off, podcast playing, trying to chill. Then around 12:45, just as I'm dozing off, I hear it again, only this time, it's not the window. Tap. 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 It's coming from the far corner of the room. From inside the wall. I shoot upright, scanning the darkness. The tapping stops, then starts again, slower, heavier. It sounds like knuckles. I grab my phone, light on, and shine it toward the closet. The doors cracked open maybe an inch. The tapping stops. I wait, silence. Then I hear this soft scrape, like fabric dragging over wood. I swallow and call out, "Hello." Nothing. I force myself up, heart pounding, and yank that closet door open. Empty. Just jackets, shoes, and a couple boxes. I laugh to myself, nervous, shaky laugh, but then I notice this faint dark line at the bottom of the doorframe, where the wall meets the floor. So I crouch down, shine the light. It's a gap. Half an inch wide, running along the floorboards. And from inside that gap, I swear, I hear breathing. I jumped back so fast I nearly fell over the chair. My flashlight's shaking like crazy. The breathing stops. Then, curiosity or stupidity, I don't know, I press my hand to the floor. It's warm. Didn't sleep that night. Just sat in the corner, lights on, waiting for sunrise. Next morning, I call my landlord. Tell him what happened. He goes, probably the pipes. There's an old crawl space under the building. Sealed years ago. I'm like, wait, what crawl space? He laughs nervously, says it was, for pests. But his voice cracks halfway through. That night, I couldn't stop staring at that damn line in the floor. Around 1 a.m., it starts again. Tap. 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 But this time it's faster. Desperate. Like someone banging from underneath. I point my flashlight, it stops instantly. The silence is worse. Finally I've had enough. I drag my bed aside, grab a screwdriver, and pry up one of the loose boards. The smell that hits me is warm, rotten, like dirt that hasn't seen daylight in years. I shine my light down. And something moves. Pale. Slow. Human. Fingers. Real human fingers, curling around the concrete edge like they're trying to pull up. I drop the light. Stumble back. Then, from down in that crawl space, I hear a voice, whispering my name. Not loud. Not clear. Just this broken, warped version of me. Patrick, that's it. I slam the board down, bolt out of the room, and call the cops. They show up, tear open the floor, open the sealed hatch, and it's empty. Just a blanket. An empty water bottle. And a photo. Of me. Taken through my bedroom window. Cops said someone probably lived down there before it was sealed. Maybe a squatter. Maybe worse. They never found who it was. I moved out a week later. But even now, sometimes, around 1 a.m., when the night's dead quiet. I swear I still hear it, faint and steady, tap. 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 Always 3 times. Always near the wall. It happened 2 winters ago when I was renting this small one-story house on the quiet side of town. The place was old, creaky floors, drafty windows, but cheap, and at 24, I wasn't exactly picky. I was working night shifts at a diner, usually getting home around 2:30 in the morning, half frozen and ready to crash. For the first few weeks, it was peaceful. The street stayed dead quiet after dark, and the only sounds were the hum of the furnace or a stray cat knocking over trash cans. I liked it that way. Then one night, just after I'd crawled into bed, I heard footsteps. They started in the hallway, slow, steady. Step. Pause. Step. Pause. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I even held my breath, waiting for the sound to fade, but it didn't. The boards creaked again, heavier this time, like someone was right outside my door. I called out, "Hello." No answer. Everything went still for a few seconds. Then the footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom. That silence was worse than the sound itself. Finally, I jumped out of bed, flipped on the hall light, and yanked the door open. Nothing. Just an empty hallway stretching toward the kitchen. I tried to shake it off. Told myself it had to be the house settling, or maybe I'd been half dreaming after a long shift. But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The front door was wide open. I knew I'd locked it when I came home. I always did. The deadbolt was still sticking out, like someone had turned it from the inside. Cold air rushed in, bringing the smell of wet dirt. My hands were shaking when I slammed it shut and threw the lock again. I checked every room, every window. Nothing was broken. Nothing missing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever opened that door hadn't needed to break in, they'd had a key. That night, I left the lights on and slept with a kitchen knife on the nightstand. For a few days, everything went back to normal. I even convinced myself I'd imagined it, until about a week later. I bought one of those cheap motion sensors online, just a little thing that beeped if anything moved past it. I set it in the hallway outside my bedroom, figured it'd give me peace of mind. Then, one night around 3:10 a.m., the sensor beeped. That tiny sound cut through the silence like a gunshot. My heart stopped. Through the crack in the door, I saw the faint red light blinking. Someone was out there. I grabbed the knife again and waited, trying not to breathe. The floor creaked softly, one slow step, then another. Then a dragging sound, like someone was pulling their foot. I thought about calling 911, but my phone was in the kitchen. Rookie mistake. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. Silence. Then I heard it, breathing. Shallow, raspy, right on the other side of the wood. I whispered, "Who's there?" but no one answered. The breathing just stopped, followed by a single knock. Soft. Deliberate. That was enough. I threw the window open, climbed out barefoot into the freezing yard, and ran straight to my car. I locked the doors and sat there shaking until the cops showed up. They searched the place top to bottom, found nothing. No footprints, no open windows. The front door was still locked from the inside. One of the officers even suggested I'd been dreaming. But when they left, I saw something they hadn't. Right outside my bedroom door, on the wooden floor, a trail of wet, bare footprints. They led down the hallway, straight to the basement door. The prints were still damp when I found them. I followed them slowly, flashlight in hand, my heart beating out of my chest. The trail ended right at the basement. There were scratch marks around the knob, thin and shallow, like someone had been picking at it, from the inside. I should have called for help. I didn't. Instead, I grabbed the flashlight and opened the door. The air that came out was cold and smelled like mildew and rust. The basement stairs groaned as I went down. Everything looked normal, a few old boxes, a busted furnace, dust everywhere. Then my light caught something odd in the far corner, a section of wall that looked newer. A sheet of plywood nailed over an old doorway. Fresh nails. Fresh wood. And from behind it came a faint sound. Step. Drag. Step. I froze. My voice cracked when I whispered, "Hello." Silence. Then, barely audible, a whisper. "Don't lock the door." That was it. I ran. I bolted up the stairs, slammed the door, wedged a chair under the handle, and stayed awake till morning with the knife still in my hand. By sunrise, I'd already packed my things. I didn't even call the landlord, just left the key on the counter and drove off. A week later, he called me. Said the new tenants complained about plumbing noises, so workers tore open part of the basement wall. Behind that plywood, they found a narrow tunnel, leading to an old storm drain out back. Inside were empty food wrappers, a sleeping bag, and an old lantern. Someone had been living down there, for months. The police said the person probably used a loose panel near the basement stairs to sneak into the house at night. They never found him. The only clue left behind was a single muddy footprint, leading out toward the drain.